You want to make a difference in your community. You love your city, and you can see the impact of homelessness and unemployment. What can you do? Well, that's why I want you to know about Seattle's Union Gospel Mission. Seattle's Union Gospel Mission started 92 years ago, and today they operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, helping to provide 360-degree care for thousands of the homeless throughout the greater Seattle area. I think their approach to all of this is so beautiful. It's highly relational. They address the root causes and the cycle of homelessness, and they're able to do that with this beautiful heart posture of letting people know that no matter what their circumstances or their history, that they are loved and cared for, both by God and by Seattle's Union Gospel Mission. Change is possible. Hope is possible. They have faith-based recovery programs that help people overcome homelessness and addiction. And if you want to hear more about some of those stories, you can actually go to ugm.org/changed lives. That's a great resource for seeing some of the work that goes on with Seattle's Union Gospel Mission. And there are plenty of ways for you to get involved this year and to help take action. You can help serve a meal, teach a class, you can deliver a blanket, you can bring donated items, or there are plenty of other volunteer opportunities. Your time really helps and really matters when it comes to serving the homeless in our community. So be sure to check out ugm.org. That's ugm.org, stands for Seattle's Union Gospel Mission. You're going to be inspired. You're going to find ways to volunteer and to donate, and you too can help make a difference with Seattle's Union Gospel Mission. Thank you to our sponsor, George Fox University. George Fox University is unique. It is a Christ-centered, student-focused university where your student is going to be appreciated for the individual they are, the learning style, and the goals that they have, while also keeping focus on their relationship with Christ. I want you to go check it out at georgefox.edu. Again, that's georgefox.edu. Thanks so much for being our sponsor, George Fox.
Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
When somebody tells you something like your spouse or, a parent or something, believe them. Even if it rubs you the wrong way, they're telling you because this is coming from your side. This is your team out of everybody in the world other than, your creator. So whether they're right or wrong, what they have to say, you need to take to heart.
Today on the AllMomDoes podcast, I'm your host, Julie Lyles Carr. You are going to be so excited to hear who I have on today, because he's somebody you've been hearing on your radio for sure, but you may not know more about his story, and his story is so compelling. Jordan St. Cyr, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I love the fact that you are this incredible musician, and you've had kind of a little bit of a Cinderella story that I can't wait to just dig into. And you are also racking up award nominations and all kinds of playtime on the radios. So back up and tell my listener where you come from, what the family's like, what kind of dog you have, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm originally from this small little community just south of Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Y'all are probably wondering where that is.
No, we're just wondering where the y'all came from. That's what we're wondering.
What? We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Okay.
It's just north of Minnesota. And so small little community, very religious, in to some extent, kind of a trades and farming community, about 1,200 people. Now we've grown. We're one of the fastest growing communities in Canada. We're about 6,000 people. Look out. We got 2 stoplights and a Dairy Queen. So things are looking up. Grew up going to church, Christian family, grew up in youth group. That's kind of where I got my start in music, because if you are possibly maybe, considering being the guy to lead worship, you're the guy. You will be chosen and you are the guy. And so I had this, this desire to learn guitar, and I loved singing already. I wasn't very good, but my youth leader just gave me the opportunity, and that's really what started it all. Then, kind of graduated to Sunday mornings. Churches in the area started having me in. I started writing my own songs. And, that just took me on a path of, being in different bands, trying out different genres, singing wherever I could, all the while being a worship leader. And just, put me on this trajectory that I'm on today, where I love just sitting down with a guitar and writing songs.
Did you feel like that would always be your path? Or is it something you still kind of wake up every now and then and go, whoa?
Yeah. I still wake up and go, whoa, like this is incredible. I remember having kind of this fork in the road moments where I went to my wife and said, hey, maybe I should, chase something else. Maybe I should go, back to, go to seminary, become a pastor. Maybe I should go be, in Canada, we have the RCMP. That's like our police service. Maybe I should go be, a cop. I had a real, strong moral compass that I felt could be used, and my wife just looks at me and she says, what would you do in your downtime? You're done your shift, you get home, what are you going to do? I'm going to write a song. She's like, well, that's your answer, and so that really is all I think about. And in my downtime, people ask like, what do you do for fun? Well, I just write songs. Yeah.
That's such a brilliant question, Jordan. I mean, that is a wise question. You say that and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how would many of us answer that? What are the things we're doing that's what we would do in our downtime? That is fantastic.
Well, that's my wife. She's a light for sure. Yeah.
That's incredible question. And now you've got 4 kiddos and you're not in Canada anymore. You are in Nashville. I'm guessing that's where the y'all came from.
That's right. I've been making my pilgrimage, 4 or 5 times a year for the last, well, I mean, we've lived here almost 2 years. So 7 years before that,
wow.
I started just coming down, making these trips, and the y'all just definitely creeped in. I'm like, I love efficiency, and you take you and all and you smash them together to make one word. I'm like, that's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to steal that. And so, we've been living here almost 2 years. The transition was a lot tougher than we expected. We moved immediately. I hit the road within the first month. And for those of you that don't know, my youngest daughter was born with some health challenges. And so I hit the road. I'm out on tour with Jeremy Camp. We're in San Antonio on a Saturday. And I got a call from my wife saying, Emery's had a seizure. I need to go into the hospital. She's like, the other kids are fine. We have, just an amazing, community wrapped around us already, in our neighborhood that are watching our other kids. And so my wife heads to the hospital and I can't get home till Monday. Like there's nothing available for me to get home from San Antonio to Nashville. And so I get home Monday just feeling completely helpless. And so that was kind of the first chapter of our story, moving. And then the kids really struggled in school. They felt like they were way behind. We live in a pretty, progressive, area educationally. And so, our middle girl, Willa, she was, not reading yet. And she, everybody in her class is reading. The boys are doing math that they have never, been taught yet. And so we're like, do we need a tutor? Do we need all these things? Never mind, new house, new neighborhood, you're pulling up your GPS just to find the grocery store, right? It's all these things.
Right.
And, when you're back home and you're preparing your heart to move, you kind of hit all these things one at a time. But once you finally pull the trigger and you've moved to this new, place, you're experiencing all these little, pillars all at the same time. And so it was really challenging. It took about 6 months for us to finally catch our breath and be like, man, God, look what you've done. This is incredible.
Right.
So we are grateful now. We're grateful we're kind of over that hurdle, and we're settled in, and the kids have found new friends. That was a big thing. Leaving such a great community back home. We lived on this block back home where we had neighbors that their plan was to kind of move in, fix their house, and move out. And, some of them stayed for like 4 years, 5 years, you know what I mean? Just because
Right.
our little block was just so tight. We had like almost 30 kids on our block. Our house was kind of like the open door, the revolving door. And it was just this, really, these are the days moments kind of
Right.
thing that we didn't realize we were living till we left. And so we just really hope that we could recreate that, here in Tennessee. And my wife prayed the prayer, God, the house we're supposed to live in, the neighbors we're supposed to have, the schools that our kids are supposed to walk into. And every one of those, heart's desires, just, replicated, what we had at home, we now have here. My wife and I, we had a birthday party for one of our kids recently, and we just caught each other looking at each other because we had like 6 of our neighbors and all their families and all their kids over. And it was just this beautiful affirmation of like, God came through. We chased this thing and God really came through.
The move thing is so interesting because I moved a lot as a kid. My dad was with the space shuttle program. And so we were either in places where he was negotiating military contract kind of stuff, NASA kind of stuff, or we were living near dry lake beds. So we could, you could test all this stuff. Yeah. And it was this real complicated, if you will, urban settings, and then very rural settings and desert settings and back to urban settings. And the wear and tear that can take on a family, even when you feel like it's the thing you're supposed to do. Jordan, I was never going to do it to my kids, right?
That's right.
And then here we go. We have done the move thing with our kids through the years. And it seems to me that we don't talk about this a lot within our faith communities, the kind of support and things that families who move in need. And when you're in very transient communities, you're in Nashville, I'm in Austin. I mean, we have people moving in all the time and then deciding, no, maybe we'll go back to LA. It's just a lot of churn right now in particular cities and areas. What have you found have been some of the most powerful things to where it hasn't felt overwhelming coming into a new community? You haven't felt like people are just on top of you, but at the same time, the kind of support, because we moved away from grandparents, aunts and uncles, all the things. We have 2 kids who are differently abled, and that brings in a whole different level sometimes of the support that you need.
Yeah.
We moved into certain communities where it seemed to transition well. We had other moves that didn't seem to go quite as well. So what would your thought be to help equip people within the faith community to say, when you have people move in, here's some ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we, just like yourself, we moved away from grandparents. We moved away from literally everybody. My family lived in our small little community. My parents, my 2 brothers, and 20 minutes down the road was Heather's parents, and so we moved to this newer area. So a lot of new housing. The development was about 3 years old. And, within those first 6 to 12 months, we realized, everybody's new.
Everybody's new.
Everybody's new. And so everybody is literally starving for a community, looking for someone to make the first step. Mm-hmm. And so, again, my wife is so great at community building. That is like her number one strength. She'll be out getting the mail, not because she needed to get the mail, but because she saw someone walking down the street and she just wanted to introduce herself,
So she's a stalker, like a professional.
She's pretty much a stalker. Yeah.
A benevolent. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I got it.
I'll make sure she doesn't listen to this.
Okay.
No, she's intentional. You know what I mean? Right. And that's the difference. When we are intentional, again, not about needing from people. I want to kind of bookmark that needing from people and get back to it. But we're not needing from people. We just want relationship, And I think when we realize that relationship is as important as the food we eat or the air we breathe, our soul needs to be nourished, and it can only be by others, Right. We need that. And so back to the needing from people, I think it's so vitally important, especially with our little girl having, kids with those different needs, to not hide that, Mm-hmm. I really, truly believe that the number one role of the church or the body of Christ is to surround those in need. The difference, though, to create healthy relationships is not to put your neediness in people. Right. So your neediness can only go to God. And we were made to be needy, but that neediness can only be placed in Him. It doesn't mean you shouldn't share your need with others. I think that is vitally important. So our need when we got here was community, was who are our 911 people should, something go down. 2 houses down, we found our new best friends. Around the block, we found just another amazing family that have befriended our kids. They have boys the same age, and it's just been this beautiful relationship of just getting to know these people through our need, and they've become our 911 people. And so this is just I don't know how people do it. I get it. Like, I'm super introverted. At the end of the day, I just want to disconnect and say peace to the world kind of thing. But we need each other vitally. We were made for that. And it's just so life-giving. It's so comforting. It's so, peace-giving, knowing that we have people in our corner who, really do it with the right intent, knowing that, we're all just trying to follow Jesus. We're all trying to, land in this gospel kingdom mode of servanthood for others. And so we just really feel that there's no strings attached. It's like, hey, you did it this week. Can you do, all this? And we just feel very, very secure here.
I think that is a really beautiful distinction to, it's not wrong to have needs. We're going to have needs, and we need community in order to help fulfill those things. And boy, you've had the experience I have when you strip out extended family and all of that. You realize, wow, we really do need people around us with all these kids and all the things that are going on.
Absolutely.
But it's so true that if we only stay in a posture of what we can get from other people, we're really not participating in community fully in that way. And sometimes, Jordan, I find, particularly when you have kids who have different issues or medical or whatever, sometimes you can kind of get put in this category. Unintentionally, people are trying to be kind, but they're not going to depend on you because they think your plate's already too full.
Right.
And when we just break all that away and just say, there is enough here for all of us that we can I want to help you. Yeah, my plate's full, but I want to also be a person you can call on. I want to be your 911 call if I can be.
Absolutely.
To make sure we're giving people the opportunity to also serve is really important. And we've lost some of that sometimes in our faith communities. I pastored for many years in women's ministry, and we would do everything we could do, Jordan, to try to be very invitational and encouraging of women to come. And every now and then we'd have some gal that I would see people turn themselves inside out to really try to come alongside in a good way. And it would sort of be like she was there sort of to get a list marked off. I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this.
Right.
And that difference between whether we're in a new community, a faith community, a new job, whatever it is, to honor that, yes, in those stages when things are so fresh and you're trying to figure out where the grocery store is, you do have needs, but you're also there to serve, to remind ourselves, whatever's going on, there's somebody we can also serve.
That's right.
How have you and your wife navigated? So you make this move. You guys were used to you guys being on tour, but that was with grandma and grandpa right down the road.
Oh, totally.
Because it's not just about your child who has medical issues. There are the other 3 kids. I've got 8, so I know the place where it's like, sometimes that's the most emergent, but then there are also these other kids who also have stuff come up too.
That's right.
So you were in a community where you were on the road, but there was immediate family. Then you make this move. And then, as you said, you're back on the road. Your daughter has an issue right off the bat.
Yeah.
How have y'all navigated the needs of your daughter, the wear and tear that makes on the primary parent who's home, the wear and tear on you being concerned and away from home? What have you guys figured out? What's the cautionary tale? Don't do it this way. What is, hey, we figured this part out. How are you navigating all of that?
Yeah, I think part of the cautionary tale is, you can't pour out what you don't have. You've got to find your source, and you've got to remind yourself to fill your cup up. And to, when you get home, bring the best of yourself, not the rest, not the scraps. Yeah. And so early on, when I started touring, my wife was super reluctant, and I understand that, and just to be aware and compassionate of what she's feeling really helped early on. And to understand that, hey, we're building something and we're going somewhere. And we're not there yet. And so we're at a point now where, she believes in the dream that I have. She believes in the ministry, and she kicks my butt at the door. However, we get often asked the question, how do you balance, the work life and the home life? And the thing is you really don't.
There's not balance.
There's not a balance. I heard Bart Millard from Mercy Me say once, you have to tip the scale in favor of what matters most, and so for my wife, I've given her this card, the veto card, saying, hey, when this doesn't work, you're the only one in my life that gets to pull the plug, because it's my one way of showing you that you come first, that the family, that you are marriage. This all means more than this, and so often in Christendom, in kingdom building, whatever you want to call it, we can elevate the call, you know what I mean, the ministry, right. and that is a farce. It's not true, because the ripple effects of myself being a present husband and a good father will possibly far outweigh whatever I do and sing about. You know what I mean? The lives that my kids, if they grow up healthy and they grow up following Jesus and they grow up knowing that mom and dad were present, well, maybe they're going to be a present, husband or wife, mother or father, and the impact that they will have for future generations because we were aware and present is huge. It's right. Huge. And so what we say is we've got today figured out. Check back in tomorrow. Yeah. Because, we make plans and we do these tours and all this stuff. At the end of the day, the thing that I care most about is my wife and kids. And I think that testifies better. I think that's a better story when we as artists who accrue all this praise, this fame, this glory, to say that can go. That's not real. It's not true. To the larger extent, it just doesn't matter as much as what's at home for me. And I think when we start to believe the other side, we start to believe what culture says is true, and we start to believe what the world is telling us is most important, and it just isn't.
I love this idea of a veto card because it removes the competition climate that sometimes can emerge in marriages where one partner's on the road a lot and the other partner is the one holding down the fort. It's really beautiful you guys figured that out, because I can see those places where when someone has the quote unquote big job or they're the breadwinner, regardless of if they're the wife or the husband or whatever, how that thing can seem to come first before anything else. Sometimes out of necessity, and sometimes because we conflate it to spiritual calling without realizing that everything in our lives is a spiritual calling. Yeah. So how beautiful that you found an antidote, that it has removed that competitive thing that can begin to emerge. That's
I think
really amazing.
The antidote was really I don't have a life verse, like our word for the year. However, in saying that, like Matthew 22, 37 and 39, where it says, love the Lord your God, right? With everything we have, our heart, our mind, our soul. And the next, Jesus says, this is my greatest commandment. The next is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. To me, that goes into, contrary to what we believe as our calling. Like we say, I'm called to be an artist, or I'm called to be a musician. I'm called to be a songwriter. I'm called to write songs of faith and inspire future generations. I'm like, that's not the call. Mm-hmm. That's an overflow of the call. But the call is, to love God. It doesn't talk about what we do. It talks about who we are. And so I think when we get that, mixed up, that's when we get into trouble. And so knowing that is my call, well, music is secondary. It's like what I do is so secondary to loving my wife and my kids and my neighbors. And so I think if we're truly digging in and we're truly following those words Jesus spoke, there's really no issue. Like we are taken care of. I'm not the provider, he will come through.
I think that's such a great way of looking at calling. We've expanded it or maybe minimized it in some of our faith circles to be something that feels very mysterious and we're going to happen upon it. And when that happens, then everything's going to lock into place and everything's going to make sense.
Right.
And boy, we can trick ourselves. I've fooled myself many a time in ministry areas where I've been running headlong after that thing under the auspices of calling. and have gotten way overloaded. A listener who has probably been listening to the show for a while has probably heard me say this before, but a few years ago, in a time of prayer and really seeking what I was supposed to be doing and, balance, was that going to be a thing or whatever? I felt like that God said to me, I am not the job. God is not the job.
That's right.
And that was very revelatory for me, as things, from God happen to be, because I had really been treating calling and all of this concept as job, vocation.
Yeah.
And to be released from that, then released a lot of changes in my life that I don't think that I would have pursued otherwise until I was like, oh, wait a minute. Okay. So
yeah, our confusion of what the calling is, I think, is an ego thing. It's a pride thing, an insecurity thing. And don't get me wrong, like when you're in a healthy place, what you do, again, is an overflow. Like God wants to expand your authority in that, in your calling. But when you get those steps mixed up and put the cart before the horse, I think you're in for a world of trouble because it doesn't put relationship first. It puts you first. Yeah.
It's a world of trouble when you get there.
That's right. That's right.
When you arrive there. How have y'all created a way of both embracing the life on the road experience, because there can be some really beautiful things for that for family.
Yeah.
And yet also you've got the kids in school and you're wanting them to have community and all the things. And then with your youngest daughter, with her medical needs, some of the limitations that may be around what some of those freedoms are.
Yeah.
How much is your family being able to experience this season of work that you're in? How much are you guys having to craft that in a different way, maybe than some other families who do some life on the road? What does that look like for y'all?
That's a tough question, because it's something I wrestle with, are my kids going to look back at this season of life, thinking, I wish I had more of my dad, I wish I had more of my family together. I don't know. Right now we are in a good place. Everybody seems secure. Everybody seems to be doing well in school, we try to be very intentional when we are home. It's quality over quantity. And that's the only way it is right now. So I'm about to head into tour season, and it's 4 days on the road, 3 days off. Mm-hmm. So when I'm 3 days off, I'm 3 days off. Like there's no songwriting, there's no management calls, there's no anything. I've learned my lesson in the past where I start putting things, even if it's like, hey, can we talk real quick? And I'm like, we can't. Yeah. We really can't. Like this 3 days is all I've got for my kids. And it's not even a weekend. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's Monday through Wednesday that I'm at home. So they're at school and I get them after school, and so it's just really treating that time like this is everything. This is everything. And you guys have my undivided, attention. You have my yes. Right? I don't need to be on my phone. I don't need to be focused on me. I've got 4 days on the road where I can do that. This is not my time. This is yours. And so just recognizing that, my wife, making me aware of that and me being willing to be made aware of that is key. Like when we go through these seasons, let me backtrack. Often I'll get the question, what's like, marriage advice, something that you can pass on. And I just think a willingness of heart, a willingness of spirit to be, when somebody tells you something like your spouse or, a parent or something, believe them, even if it rubs you the wrong way, they're telling you because this is coming from your side. This is your team. This is the person you chose. These are the parents you grew up with. These are the people that know you the best out of everybody in the world other than your creator. So whether they're right or wrong, what they have to say, you need to take to heart. You need to, listen to them. And so that's just something my wife's made me aware of. It's like, hey, when you're home, we need you home. We need you to be present. And so that's just one way we're that's just a tool in the tool belt that I've been using to just, I get to, tell my team, anybody that might demand my attention is like, no, I'm with my family. Just staying in constant communication with Heather, my wife. I have failed many times in the past to just, call her, every day. Now I'll probably try and be intentional and call her 2-3 times a day, just to like, hey, how's it going? let's talk about nothing. Let's talk about nothing that matters. I just want to show you that I like being with you. So by the time we hit that reentry period, I get back home, we're not strangers, right? We've kept up the relationship. And then same goes for our kids. FaceTime is just a beautiful invention that has served us so well.
And honestly, Jordan, these are all great things for anyone to think about, whether they've got a spouse on the road or not, because I even think about the fact that my husband and I office from home quite a bit. He will go into an office a couple, 3 days a week. But how easy it has been for us right here officing to let work just lap over into everything, not having a clear delineation between, okay, I'm shutting things down. I think about how easy it is, as you said, to be rolling through the day and to not be in touch with kids or husband. And when I'm on the road speaking or presenting, it's very wild to me how fast I can get to the place where I'm 2 days in and go, I haven't, I think I sent somebody a TikTok, but I don't know that I actually,
it's true.
I don't know that I communicated actually. And so that place, even for those of us who aren't on the road as much as you are, to take stock, and to be willing to respect the feedback that we're getting from those who are here, boots on the ground. Hey, this is what it's like. You don't seem to be present. You seem to be distracted, all the things. How do you navigate, because you've been building this thing, right? How do you navigate that sense that for a lot of us who are, and I'm going to say that in the music industry, it's the entrepreneurial space. It is the thing where you're the product and you're out there trying to do the thing. And I don't mean in a jaded way, because what you're doing is ministry, but how do you navigate that fear that can really come up on a lot of us, particularly in non-traditional jobs, that if we aren't on top of every email, every text, every quote unquote opportunity, we could miss the thing if we do shut things down for a couple of days. How do you manage that?
I think when we look to the core, the central idea of the gospel, of following Jesus, living the life the way he lived, all that doesn't really factor in, does it? Your no means a lot more than your yes. And again, tipping that scale in favor of what matters most. Maybe even saying tipping it in favor of what matters most to Jesus, might be the better way to say it. Because, I think early on when I was starting, to get a lot of momentum, yes, I was in a season of yes. And my wife understood that, and we just went for it. But now my family is my yes. They have to be, because you know what? I'm not living with these promoters or these shows or these talent buyers or even the fans. At the end of the day, I'm living with my wife, and I want to, stay married. I want my kids to look favorably upon me, to know that while this dream took a lot of time away, I pray that it's showing them, that if you have a little tenacity and grit and you want to chase a dream, you can go for it. Just like Dad did. It's continually getting back to that core idea of what you believe.
Right.
Because if you believe that God is for you, that Jesus is real, and that our calling is not what we do, then you can, you really can hold your dream with an open hand, knowing that if it's gone tomorrow, well, God's got other plans for me. We so often, especially in the entrepreneurial space, we are kind of the backstop. Whatever, gets through is on us. I love having, this entrepreneurial spirit, going out and getting, whatever I need to do the job. But at the end of the day, if I don't believe something greater is at work that is allowing me to do the job, I think it's all for naught. Yeah. And so really just believing that God is in control, especially having, a younger, a little girl with special needs, you realize, we really had a lot less control, or if any, in the first place.
Right. Right.
You really, start to understand that, I thought I had all this decision-making power, and this, direction over my life. And it's really not as true as you think.
Yeah. It's an illusion. And yet it's one we love to believe, but you're right.
Yeah.
And I think too, for a lot of us who struggle with that sense of, if I'm going to miss something, or if I am not on all the time, if it's for us, God's going to bring it. And the email can reemerge. It's okay.
Yeah, because your quality of life goes down.
It does.
And then your ability to love people goes down as well.
Down too.
And that's the whole point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Well, Jordan, this has been such a delightful and insightful conversation. I know the listener's going to want to know more about you. I'm sure they've heard Fires or Weary Traveler, and they're probably following your music, but where can they go to check out more about what you do, where you're going to be next, if the tour's coming to their part of the world, all the things?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, you can check out my Instagram. That's probably where you're going to get the newest, freshest news. My handle is just at Jordan St. Cyr, JordanStcyr. Good luck, pronouncing that. And then as a secondary option, you can just check out my website, jordanstcyr.com.
All righty. We'll get that into the show notes that Rebecca does for us each and every week. Jordan, again, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Julie. It's been a blast.
Be sure and check out All Mom Does. All Mom Does on the socials, allmomdoes.com. And I love to connect with you too. Instagram's usually the place. Julie Lyles Carr over there. Hey, do us a favor. Send this episode. Grab the link. Send this episode to someone who you know is wondering how to navigate all the things. Maybe they've had a move come up in their life. Maybe they've got a spouse who's on the road a lot. Maybe they are navigating kids and kids who have medical needs or special needs. Send this link to them. That's one of the greatest thank yous and really helps us share these incredible conversations with someone like Jordan. And I'll see you next time on the All Mom Does podcast.